What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Talking with the Source. It's me, Robin from Hafern Paranormal. Tonight, unfortunately, AJ can't be on the stream due to the fact that he's dealing with an emergency somewhere, but he's hoping that he might be able to get in sometime tonight. But if not, we will definitely bring our guest back when AJ is on so that we can get into it a little bit more. Before we start, I want to give a shout out to some people here. I want to give a shout out to Parapost Network. Please, please, if you're not already on Parapost or don't know what it is, go and check Parapost Network out. It's absolutely amazing. Also, our sponsors, Global United Paranormal Foundation, go and check them out. Paratech as well, Paratech Laboratories. Please, please check them out. Amazing people. And also FCD Ghost Boxes here in the UK. There are three sponsors. Nigel builds all the boxes himself by hand. And they're amazing. So please check out them three. Just to give a shout out to our partners from Parapost, there is Coventry Circle Paranormal, Huntophobia Canada, PD Region Paranormal, Paranormal Consultant, and Night Watchers Paranormal Australia. Please also go and check out their social medias, go and check out their YouTubes, have a look at them and subscribe and whatever. Absolutely amazing people that we're working with here and amazing evidence to have, as well as my own Hafern Paranormal as well on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And Talking with the Source. But without further ado, let us bring our guest in today. Our guest is Matthew Sorge from S.R.S Paranormal in Tennessee. So let's bring him on.
Hey, Robin, how you doing?
Hey, Matthew.
How you doing?
How's it going?
I'm doing good.
So
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say thank you for having me on. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. I'm really glad to be here. One quick correction: my last name is Sorge, S-O-R-G-E, as in George.
Oh, right, okay.
That's okay. Just had to point that out.
I was trying to make it sound posh.
Oh, okay, yeah. So add a little emphasis to it, right? Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. So I was just telling the viewers a bit about you, that you're on S.R.S Paranormal, but you've also got a lot of other irons in the fire, she would say. So before we get into those, do you want to start by telling the viewers how you first get into the paranormal?
Oh, absolutely. So my story is probably different than some. I wasn't one of those people that grew up in the paranormal. I wasn't somebody that, had experiences my whole life. I didn't have my first paranormal experience until almost 16 and a half years ago. I had gone my whole life kind of jealous of people that had all these cool things happen to them, but I wasn't one of them. One of the things that I really enjoy doing in my spare time, unfortunately, I don't get to do near enough of it anymore because I do so much more now on the paranormal side than obviously I did way back then because I wasn't into paranormal. But it's metal detecting. I like to do, for relics. I like to recover artifacts from other time periods. And basically, how my start in this journey happened was I was at a location. It was a house, an old farmhouse from, well, for you guys, not old because it was late 1800s. For you guys, that's like a baby house. But for us, the late 1800s is kind of old. So, but anyways, so we had this old, abandoned farmhouse. So it's in this field, and there's nothing for probably 10 acres in any direction, but at the end of the road, the little house that the caretaker lives in. So I'm out there and I'm metal detecting, minding my own business, doing my thing. I get a good signal. I go down there, covering my target, and I get that like really creeped out feeling. Well, I look up at this house that nobody has lived in this thing for at least 30 or 40 years. The roof is caving in. There's corn growed up on parts of the side where he had planted and still hadn't cleared that section of the farm. There's old dilapidated farm equipment in the yard. I mean, it's like it's just been abandoned, like something you'd see in some horror movie somewhere. And I know that sounds quintessentially crazy, but that is exactly what it looked like. Was in an old horror building place. But anyhow, I get that weird feeling. I look up, and as clear as I'm seeing you right now on this screen, I see a woman, an elderly woman in the upstairs window looking back at me. And while I'm looking at her, she vanished right before my eyes. She was gone. And I chalked it up to, well, maybe I had, a rough night. I'm a full-time firefighter. That's what I do for a career. I thought, well, maybe I had a rough night last night. We were busy. Maybe I'm just tired. So I kind of blew it off and left. Well, really, I didn't blow it off. I grabbed my stuff and ran to my truck, and I hauled ass out of there as quick as I could because, well, I'd seen a ghost. But I started to rationalize and say, well, okay, maybe I just had a rough night and just lack of sleep. Well, a few weeks later, I got the opportunity to go back to that location, or I guess the nerve to go back to that location. And I had another experience, this time, not thinking about what had happened last time, but being aware of being creeped out by being there. Again, I'm digging a hole and I'm kind of focusing on what I'm doing. And the sun is setting. And so, like, the light is casting behind me, but I can see everything in front of me as where the shadows are falling in front of me because the sun's setting to my back. And I look up and I see a shadow go by, and I just thought, well, that's weird. Who's coming up here? I'm in a field by myself. Well, I turn around and I look, and there's nobody. There's nobody for acres, upon acres back to where his house is. I was assuming it was him coming to check on me and see if I found anything cool, but it wasn't. So I grabbed my stuff and again I left. I knew at that point that these things that people experience, this phenomena, is not something that's just in people's heads. When I first started, that was kind of my thought. It was kind of like, well, I want to prove that maybe it's us that makes things into things that they're not. And sometimes we do, and that's definitely part of the paranormal experience for some people. They sometimes maybe assign things to paranormal that we find aren't, because most things can be explained naturally if we try hard enough. But that's where my journey started, and that curiosity at that point led to more wanting more information, wanting more knowledge. It became a passion, and now I pretty much devote whatever time I'm not working or with my family. I'm literally working on paranormal research, working on equipment projects, working on large production project stuff. When I say large, production project stuff, or large investigations, or just trying to expand my knowledge base so that I can be a better researcher. I really have dove into this wholeheartedly.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Just hello to Andrina Miller Brown from Scotland, not far up the road from me. No, it's fascinating and it's amazing, because I wouldn't say that my paranormal journey started in a bit of a different way. But I remember when I was a kid, about 7 or 8 year old, and where I lived at the time, over just outside Belfast, and I remember seeing an old woman up the street from us. They actually were an old couple, and she died. And I remember one day I was playing football on the street, and I happened to look up, and I seen her looking out the top window. And at that age, I sort of, I was like, yeah, I'm seeing things. She died
Right.
last year. I'm seeing things, but it sort of stuck with me. And it's like the amount of people who start by seeing an old woman,
I know it's
you know,
so weird.
looking out a window of a house, and it's like it's so uncanny how it,
Hmm.
how it happens, and it's really amazing. And from what I understand, if you just want to let us know, the metal detecting community over in America is quite big, really, isn't it?
Yes, yes, it's yeah, it's a huge hobby. Our antiquity laws are quite a bit different than yours too. So I think that's part of the reason why. Pretty much, if you have consent on private property, you can go ahead and metal detect without any real restriction in most states.
Yeah. See, over here we have trespassing is only a civil law. So if we're invested, I tend to. What I love about the paranormal is I love going to abandoned buildings. What I mean?
Right. Yeah.
I love seeing a house or a pub or whatever it would be, just sitting there, and it could be boarded up or it could be just lying there, and finding a way in, and going in, and
Right.
and seeing what there is. And over here, like I say, it's only a civil law. So if someone, which they have done to me quite a few times, phoned the police saying, "Oh, there's someone in that
Yeah.
abandoned building," and they turn up, all they really do is ask you to leave. You know, what I mean,
Okay.
if you're not trying to burn the place down, if you're not smashing the place up, if you're not graffitiing everywhere, and especially when they see all your equipment and stuff like, and they know what you're doing, you know, sometimes they might even say, "Ah, just carry on." You know what I mean?
Right.
Or other times they'll say, that, can you just go?" And we're like, "Yeah, yeah, no problem."
Right.
But
Yes.
I
See,
know that, and
in some of the states here, that's a felony.
yeah,
You'll be trespassed once, and you're told not to come back. If you're caught even in a parking lot of a place in some states, that's a felony charge here. So
I was going to say that to you. The
yeah,
laws like that are different because I know from speaking to AJ, and I'm like, I love going to abandoned buildings, and he's like, "Yeah, over here," he says, you know, we don't really do that often because you can get caught and get charged with it."
yeah,
Like it's great over here in that respect
sure,
because you know as long as you're not seeing it, if I go somewhere and I have done quite a few times. I've got a location of someone or I found one and I go to it and I walk around and there's literally no way in. I just turn and walk away.
right,
You know what I mean? So things like that. But they do get open. People open them,
sure.
and then once if I walk around somewhere and there's a window out or there's a board off or there's a door open, fair play. You know what I mean?
Sure,
Uh,
sure.
yeah, definitely. It's but like I say, as well over here, metal detecting's not that big, so I know it is quite a big community over there.
Yeah.
So
Which is I guess, and I guess it comes down to laws too, but it's just kind of amazing because you guys have so much more history over there than we do. I mean, we are literally a baby nation compared to the rest of the world. So it's we're stuff that we consider treasure here in the metal detecting world would be rubbish or garbage, for you all. It would be stuff that's like, well, it's only from the 1800s, and this is like, wow, that's from the 1800s. So it's I always love talking to people on the other side of the pond because it's your history is so rich, and over here we are so envious of the amount of history that you guys have. It's like we get excited about something that's 150 years old, and that's really nothing where you are. So it's just I always love hearing that.
yeah, it's one of them things where it's like you know how would you describe it? A friend of mine years ago bought a metal detector, and it was like we were all like, "What the hell is that?" And then we thought, "Oh, this will be good. We'll go out and we'll find some stuff." And you're walking along, you get a beep, 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 and
Garbage.
you dig it up, and it's like an old
Yeah.
can of Coke or something like that, and
Yeah.
you're like, "Oh." And there was one time where we were out in this field, and hi Feta, that we were out in this field and walking along with a detector, and it beeped, and it was like my mate said to me, he says, "Do you know anything about metal detecting?" And I was like, "No," and he was like, "Right, well, you've got to try and get hi Sean, you've got to try and get uh the area, if it beeps." Don't just think, all right, we'll dig in that spot. You sort of go around that area and move out, and see how big the area actually is. And I said, right, so got this thing, and it beeped, and I moved it a bit more, and it was still beeping, and I moved it a bit more, and it turned out it was like say 2 foot by 1 foot of an area that was
Wow.
constantly beeping, and I was like, oh, I was young, like, oh, this will be a chest full of coins and stuff like. And
I've made it.
yeah, and this was like a field just that people used to play football on. So here's me starts digging a hole, and I'm digging down, and I must have went down about a foot, and there was still nothing. Put the metal detector over it, was still beeping, and I was like, wow. So I started digging down, and all of a sudden I hit something metal, and I thought, right, I'm digging away and digging away. Turned out it was a wet front wing of a car.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, I'm done with this.
Yes, you definitely dig a lot more garbage than you do anything keepable. One cool thing though, I have done, and I don't get to do this much now because just the places we go now are a lot different than some of the local places we used to do. We used to do a lot of like the local places, and once you do a relic survey at a haunted location, it's not like you can go back and do it again. So the places we regularly investigate around here, as far as non-residential cases, that's a whole different dynamic. But once you do that relic survey for them and turn the relics over to them that you've recovered on their property, you pretty much can't use that tool in the toolbox anymore because it's expired. But
Yeah.
I have used items that I've recovered in places like we're based out of a place called the Nickerson's Need House. Our lead psychic medium on the team, she actually owns it. It's a very active location, and not just saying it because we're based there, but truthfully, some of the best evidence we've captured has been
I've seen
there.
your videos on it.
Yeah, it's an amazing location. The Ray
Yeah.
Chasers from Haunted Towns and Ghost Asylum and a couple of the other U.S. shows, they frequently come up there and host events because it's so active. But I actually found part of the first time we went there when I first met Rhonda. I actually found the barrel part of an old microscope, and that's relevant because the guy that built the house around the old fort that was there in the 1770s, built it around that main structure that was still there, was the town doctor. He was the area physician of the time. So in the mid 1800s through the Civil War period, he was the doctor of the town. So that was cool to find a piece of that history and then use it as a trigger item, and actually use it to try and get meters and things to react because we reintroduced something that belonged to the property. So I have had some success with that using items that I've recovered.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I just want to say hello to Travis there from Skip's Paranormal Adventures.
Hi, Skip.
So, do you want to tell us about
Or
some of
Travis.
the other work you're doing?
Oh,
Is it a show? The one is it The Gathering? Is it a show you're doing, or is it a movie? Or
yeah, so that was like you. It was a podcast that we did 2 seasons on. We did seasons instead of like doing a weekly thing. We were on Paranormal Warehouse for a while, and then we took a step back because we did the big project that is still in post production. That really was a lot of planning and stuff that went into the film. So we kind of took a step back after season two. We are going to bring it back and do that podcast again.
excellent,
But it was a lot of fun. Got to talk with a lot of people. And when we bring it back, I hope you'll come on and be a guest on with us. That would be
absolutely,
fantastic. But yeah, so that's was what we were doing with that, and we really started during COVID because it was like there was nothing for us to do like everybody else. We couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't investigate, and it was a way to connect with people and share experiences, and that's where we started that. That's where that started. So
yeah. And does that tie in with the other one? Is it Field of Fears? Is it or
yeah, so Field of Fears is the documentary project, and I'll talk about that in just a second if that's okay. It,
yeah,
the,
yeah,
the gathering ties into something called the Hexpo. So we travel around the country not only to do investigations, but also to go to like para events or paracons as we call them, conventions. Um, and we've been to several of them, so we decided, well, why don't we host one? Why don't we put something together? So we decided to create something called The Gathering. So thegathering.com is the website. Unfortunately, right in the middle of planning, getting everything set up, getting the celebrity talent and the vendors and all the people to come in to put on the big event, COVID hit. So we had to postpone. And then we had to postpone a second time because the second wave of COVID hit. And then
yeah,
the restrictions that came following that, you could not do a large scale event. So we had to postpone. And then that caused some contractual concerns. So we've pushed it now because the last time we had to postpone, it was like we cannot keep postponing every couple of months. So we decided to push it out 18 months to 23 to June of 2023 in order to give us time to get on level footing and do it the right way. So the gathering, the live show ties into the Hexpo, which is the big paranormal convention or whatever you guys want to, event that you would want to
yeah,
call it.
yeah. So, but the Field of Fears one, I want to tell everybody what that is.
Yeah. So one of the things that I wanted to do was kind of in my paranormal journey. To me, it's not. just about the experiences. I love having experiences. I love gathering evidence, but there's so much more story to me. There's so much more that we can tell about a location, its history, the people that live there. And I kind of feel like as a paranormal researcher, it's really our job to kind of tell that story and to be the voice from the darkness. My team, SRS Paranormal, for the States, we do things a little bit different than a lot of teams. It's probably very common the way you guys work in the UK and in Europe. We combine, the psychic mediumship with the investigators, the science and the meters and the gear. We also mix in the Victorian era methods, and everybody on my team has a unique specialty. Some of them focus on cryptids. Some of them focus on, ancient civilizations. That's kind of, stuff I like. Ancient cultures, rather.
Yeah.
Occult practices. Myself and our lead psychic are both very heavily into to researching those things. So we bring different elements in. So we research anything that to us is, paranormal, meaning not normal, the opposite of normal, not necessarily just, spirits or ghosts. We don't always make those assumptions, but anyhow, so as we progressed and built our style and the way that we approach things, I often found that, there's these other elements, right? There's these historical pieces to this that sometimes something happens, a psychic picks up on something, or on a mediumship level, we connect with something, or we get a piece of evidence on a spirit box or an EVP that doesn't match what we know. So the more you dive into the locations, the more you know about its history and the history that was there before the structure even that you're investigating, the more you're armed with, the more of the pieces you can put together. So
Yeah.
that thought process has always been our driving force to document everything, make good case reports, and put that information in a way that we'll have that to always look back on. So there was this place called the Randolph County Asylum, and it's one of those places that I had heard about, and I had seen a couple of small things. People on YouTube had done stuff on it. I think some of the shows now have been there. It was one of those places that fascinated me. But what fascinated me about the place wasn't just that it's haunted and it's this massively cool structure. It's 58,000 square feet. But it's the fact that in this country, we had this period of time post the Victorian era, right? So actually the height of the Victorian era, late 1800s into the early 1900s, pretty much every city, every county in this country had a poorhouse, or what we called a county asylum. It was actually, by most states, it was law that you had to have these places. And when you hear the word asylum, you automatically think of a place where you put mentally unfit people that are so dangerous that you have to lock them away. But that's not at all what all these asylums were. Some of them were literally safe places. They were places of refuge to put the people that society deemed unfit. So
Mm.
that really struck me in a way that I thought, wow, I mean, how we've changed, right? In some ways, but in other ways we haven't. In this, what societal norms are today were absolutely not societal norms back then. And literally, we would lock people away somewhere or turn them over to the state or the county, to the government, and say, hey, they're your problem, right? So the Randolph County Asylum is one of those places that still stands. It's a relic from a period in time in history when we did this, and it was actually used as a county home through the 90s. It became an assisted living and nursing home all the way through 2009, I believe it was, when it actually shut its doors for good. So I mean, it was built in the 1870s. So you have a long history of people living there, and over 200 documented deaths. So I just became kind of fixated on wanting to know more about this place, and my team got the opportunity to go and investigate it. Unfortunately, my wife was ill, and I wasn't able to go with them when I went at the first time in September of, I guess, 20. And so I got the idea, look, I want to go back. Well, I wanted to go back and I wanted to tell the story, and I wanted to really document it and really do something bigger with it than just go and investigate it. And the idea became to shoot a documentary. Now, I'm not a filmmaker. I'm not somebody that's done a lot of that type of stuff, but I decided to jump into this project. Talked it over with Rhonda and Kevin. who are the lead psychic medium and the lead investigator, talked it over with the team. The team's like, yeah, let's do this. And so myself and Rhonda and Kevin decided, well, if we're going to do it, let's form a production company and do it the right way. So we hired a videographer, we hired an audio person to go in with the team. We brought in some additional experts because we wanted to do something that had never been tried before, at least here in the States. We wanted to do some experiments on a scope and scale that people haven't seen. So we brought in somebody by the name of J.W. Prather. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he builds boxes. This one's the IDC. It's a box that we use heavily throughout this documentary, and we use here. He's a lot of the shows here in the States and abroad use his equipment. So I actually got to know Jay because he built some stuff for us, and I said, "Hey man, do you want to come do this project with us? You want to be part of this?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Well, how can we use your equipment in a way that people aren't using it?" And he's like, "Well, tell me about the building." So I was like, "It's 58,000 square feet, man. It's pretty much like it was a dilapidated building. It's just an open building. There's not much there, you know." I was like, "What what do you want to know?" He goes, "Well, tell me about it. Well, how's it laid out?" I was like, "I don't know." He goes, "Well, I'll find out." So he gets the floor plans, calls me up a few weeks later, and he's like, "Hey, man," he goes, if you really want to be part of this project," he said, "let's do something big." He said, "Let's wire the whole place up. Let's wire up all 58,000 square feet for real time spirit communication, where we can do real time spirit box, where we can actually plug the energy of a seance throughout the whole building and see what happens." So,
Yeah.
yeah, and do experiments on a scope and scale that we had never dreamed of. One of the things that I've been fascinated with, so happens something that Jay is as well, is theories of Nikolai Tesla's theories on human frequencies and the resonant frequencies that the whole consciousness works on. So we talked about incorporating different frequency things. Well, Justin Spurrier from Spurrier Paranormal works with Jay a lot. He does a lot of really cool experiments with frequency modulation and things. So him and I got to talking. So he had me contact, Jay had me contact Justin. So we started talking about some of the experiments we could do on that scale and try to do some things that, people probably haven't tried. So that was the plan. Then we thought, okay, we want to bring in some more psychic mediums to this. Well, a good friend of mine, one of my mentors on my path with mediumship, is medium Sky Ray. So we brought Sky onto the project. Plus, we have our own, medium who is uh, Dr. Rhonda Claudale, who is our lead psychic medium for the team. So we wanted to have mediums that had different specialties, so that we could look at what the psychics get and then cross-validate that and validate that with the equipment, and just try to do some stuff that hadn't really been tried. And that's what we did. We set out and we did what may arguably be one of the largest seances conducted. We actually did a seance that went 58,000 square feet through the whole building. We did an electronic spirit circle. So think of a seance on steroids, where we actually had live spirit boxes with our energy being connected into that, and put that through the whole building. And then placed people in different positions in the building to hear things. And then we flat out investigated it with the old school methods as well. So, but what we found was it wasn't just about the experiences and the evidence. It was about telling the story. It was about really telling the story of the people that live there and the more than 200 documented deaths, and the fact that some of those people were never claimed, and over 50 bodies were put in a pauper's grave because nobody to claim them. The county couldn't afford to do anything with them, so they're buried in a unmarked grave on the property. So that's really how the project started, and it just really became its own thing. And I think the more that we worked on it, we shot there for a couple of days, and it was 20-hour days, and it was brutal because it was really trying to do controls to make sure that we kept the environment clean, so we knew where everybody was. It was validating the experiments, and when you are doing something in a building that size, you really got to be careful. You got to be careful with those controls so that the evidence doesn't get contaminated, and you end up throwing out more than you keep, because you got to be sure, was it really, was that really a footstep, or did we miss one guy coming down the hall, when you have that many,
Yeah.
that large of a thing. So yeah, that's how the project started. And the other great thing is the guy that owns the place, his name is Dan Allen. He runs an organization called Stop Save the Old Properties. It's a nonprofit. He buys buildings like this and raises funds to keep them going. So part of the process for us was really bringing awareness to stop and helping save these buildings that unfortunately are disappearing from our landscape. The book is already available. It's on Amazon. This is the companion book that goes with the film. It dives
Right.
deep into the history. It's filled with lots of pictures about the asylum, lots of the history, lots of the people that once lived there. It is available on Amazon currently, and the film, like I said, is still in post production. But yeah, so that's the project.
So that's something else for the viewers to keep an eye out for as well. Then.
Yeah, absolutely. And
so,
again, it's also
so
about raising money for Stop. So
yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean that's a great idea. You know, there's a lot of old buildings over here that should be saved like that, but you know, they're just flattening them for fun these days.
yep.
So when is this movie supposed to be coming out then?
Yeah, so I'm shooting for right now. We're shooting for this fall. It was supposed to already have come out, but we shot this thing when COVID took a little hiatus, which was March of 21, I guess. Here it took a little bit of a dip, so that's when we actually went over there and filmed this. And then when we came back from it, within a few weeks, there was another big wave, and everything was shut down. So we had a little hiccup there, and then there was a few other small post production snags. But that's to be expected. Like I said, this is my first time doing a project on this scale. But Shadow Works Productions Production LLC is the production company that we formed to do this. So you can check out the trailer there. You can also go to www.srsparanormal.com. There's a link there to the Field of Fears and a link to Shadow Works there as well. Plus, a lot of our own evidence and other stuff about us is there also.
Excellent. So everybody check that out. So will that be available all over the world then, or is it just being released in America?
Yeah, so right now the plan is to, I'm not sure which way we're going to go yet. The plan right now is to we're probably going to go Amazon. It'll probably be an Amazon Prime type of deal where
Yeah.
it will be available on Amazon initially. There will be a DVD market portion of it as well. We are looking and discussing some other streaming platforms. I'm not sure yet. That's all going to depend on distribution deals and how that will work. But we are looking at some others, and I would, if not, it will be something that if nothing else, it will definitely be available via YouTube or something. There'll be a way that will make sure people can see the film.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. So I was I was reading on your bio that you're a Reiki practitioner.
Yes, I'm a Reiki 3. I'm not done my mastery yet, but I'm getting ready to do that. That's my next step.
So what does all that involve then?
So it's energy healing. So it's the process of actually using, natural energies, which Reiki is a practice. It's not necessary. It's not a religion. It's just a practice of healing. It's where you use energy and use that universal energy to help heal and work in the different chakra spaces and attune people, so that they can operate on a higher frequency. In fact, something very interesting about Reiki itself. One of the major cancer hospitals here in the States actually uses a basic Reiki to teach their patients for self healing about tuning their energies. So it's something that I'm pretty passionate about as well.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think we're all in the same boat at some point, aren't we?
Yes, sir.
So yeah, definitely. So you're based in East Tennessee, isn't that correct?
That's correct.
Is that Memphis side or is that the other side?
The other side. Yep. So if you look at the state of Tennessee and the little tiny skinny part that's up just below Virginia, so the very little tiny tip, we're that part right there. Pretty much,
Right.
I can drive 8 miles from here and be in Virginia. I can drive about 30 miles and be in North Carolina. So we're right in the tip.
Yeah. My mum and dad were in Nashville a couple of times.
Love
He's way into
Nashville.
music, so
Yeah, I love Nashville. That's about 3.5 hours. Well, no, it's about 4.5 hours from here. It's about
right.
350 miles from where I live.
So the the paranormal field itself. Do you find that it's from your point of view that it basically it's on the up, if you know what I mean? Because years ago, I mean, we've discussed this with other guests. Years ago, if you were a sensitive, or if you had the qualities to see and hear and communicate and stuff,
Yeah.
You wouldn't have told anybody, because it was like,
Like
and
you're
people
weird.
would be like,
Yeah,
you're
you're
nuts, you.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think, now, especially in the UK, it's getting really big over here. Unfortunately, what you tend to have is the people who, I've been explaining to a lot of people from the States that uh, YouTube is a big thing over here, and everybody is on YouTube
Yeah.
just for views.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's not the case of, when I say everybody,
Yeah.
I don't mean that every single person is on it, but
No, I know what
you
you're
know,
saying.
I sort of, me personally, I categorize it in two categories. You've either got the urban exploring, or
Hmm.
you've got the paranormal,
Yes.
and it's so annoying sometimes to see, you know, an urban exploring channel, and they'll be like, right, we've got all the subscribers we're going to get from that. I know, we'll
Yeah.
start doing paranormal as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think from people like yourself, and a lot of people like that who, you start off. I mean, I was the same. You start off with an experience,
Hmm.
and where a lot of people would have the experience and run a mile, we're like, oh no, we like that. We want to get more, and
Yeah.
it gives you the bug kind of thing, doesn't it? And then
It
it's sort
does.
of, there's more and more coming out now, and there's more programs on TV. There's more groups coming out, and it's just, to me, I don't. I want to hear your view, but to me, I think it's growing in a healthy way.
Yes. Yeah, I think that I think that paranormal has definitely become more mainstream in the fact that I know almost, so 2005. What's that? I'm not great at math here, obviously, but so 16 years, 17 years,
Yeah,
roughly. That time frame that I've been involved in this because of my experience, it's grown so much in that length of time, that before, when you would tell people that, well, what do you do for fun? Well, I'm a paranormal investigator. You're a what? I mean, people would look at you
yeah,
like, what's wrong with you? So I think that, and that's the positive side, I think, to
yeah,
the paranormal TV too, is in that sense, is it's really opened the public, people that never would have been involved in these things are now able to sit in their living room and be involved. So I think it's allowed it to become more mainstream, because now if somebody sees your ball cap or your T-shirt or whatever, and they're like, "Oh wow, man, are you a ghost hunter? Are you a paranormal investigator?" Like, yeah, it's a conversation starter now, where before it
yeah,
was a conversation ender. So I think it's really come full circle. But I kind of like to classify paranormal investigators in different categories as well too. I think you have people who are just in it for the experiences, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with people wanting to have experiences, because we all kind of started, more gun ho about the experience than anything else. But I think that if you're serious about this, you want to evolve and you want to grow into more of a researcher, and try to get answers. Why are we doing this? Are we doing this just to have fun, or are we doing this to actually try to gain answers? And I know for me, in my journey, the theories and thoughts I had when I first started and where I am today are totally different. It seems like the more I experience and the more I learn, the more questions I actually have. I have way more questions than I have answers now, and it's
exactly.
just it's
It's
amazing.
a topic, I think, that, in my eyes anyway, it's a topic that, like you've just said, the more you do in the paranormal, the more you investigate in the paranormal, the more you end up looking for, because it's like
Yeah.
it's like a never ending thing, really, because it's not like you're going to look for answers and someday you'll be like, right, I've got everything I need to know now. I
Yeah,
can give it
yeah,
up. And it's
yeah.
like,
No,
a lot of people, like, well, most of the investigators that like we are and other ones and stuff are like, you'll do it from now till your deathbed and you'll still not have got every answer you wanted.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And
absolutely.
you could pass that down to someone, giving them all the data and all the answers and stuff that you've got, and say, right, you carry on, and they could carry on for years and still not get all of
Yep.
it. You know?
It's truly the great mystery, right? It's the great mystery of life. What happens when we die is the mystery. I mean, that is literally it. And honestly, I selfishly kind of hope we don't get the answers, because I think that's what keeps it exciting and fresh for me, is constantly thinking, yeah, you know what? I got an idea of this particular tiny little piece of the paranormal puzzle, and then something else happens, and I'm like, okay, well, hell, that was wrong. Let's go back to the drawing board. So I think that's what keeps me coming back, is that excitement of discovery and the possibility of something different happening. And I think until we can catch Casper and put him in a lab and actually study him, and I'm totally kidding right now because we'll never be able to do that, but that's the only way that, until that happens, you can never do that. And that's one of the things, like, I guess, and I find myself using this term too, and I sometimes wish I wouldn't. The term scientific, I get it, but it's not a lab, right? We don't have a
Mm.
subject we can put in the lab and study. So I like to use a methodical approach. I think that's a better descriptor than scientific, because we have to be methodical and have controls, and be serious if we're about researching and about actually presenting evidence. And I got to harp on one thing real quick, because I'm big on this, and I do it every show that I'm ever on. Um, Residential work. If you're coming in to do residential work, please don't make that where you go for experiences. That's where you go to help people. The best
Yeah.
residential investigation is the one where you never bring out a spirit box. You don't need that. That what you need to do is find the answers to what's plaguing them. Is it literally something that's haunting them? Is it just a family member that's trying to get a hold of them? Is it the person that died there 20 years earlier? Or is it, the motor on the air conditioner makes a weird noise and they didn't realize it? The point is, that's about helping people and getting answers. That is not where you go to have experiences and experiment and try new things that you've never tried before. That's just a big one that I always talk about, because you talked about YouTube earlier, and that's what made me think of that point. I see so many YouTube channels where, people are doing things that they don't understand. They don't,
Yeah.
they're doing it for views, they're doing it for likes. And I wish people wouldn't do that, because there is real things out there that we don't understand, and you can open the doorway to stuff that can really wreak havoc in people's lives if you're not careful. And I've seen it, hundreds of investigations. I've seen it happen. I've had to go
Absolutely.
in behind people like that and fix the mess they create.
Yeah. I mean, you see these people that go in, and you'll look at their channel, and they've only done 2 or 3 videos, and all of a sudden they're in this abandoned place, and they've drew a pentagram on the floor, and they've got candles on it, and it's like, really, what are you doing?
What are you doing? Yeah. Why?
You know, it's like seriously, are you really asking for trouble? You know what I mean? So we've,
Right.
we've got we've got on here, we've got Parasolo, hello to them, and we've got Matt Barron, who's a colleague of ours, and he said hello, and he's also said he couldn't agree more with you, Matthew, about the residential cases.
Good name,
So,
by the way.
and obviously Parasolo, they absolutely agree as well. They come from a channel that I watch and I'm a member of. I don't know if you've heard of it or not. AAP Grow Network.
I have not. I'll have to check it out for sure.
AAP Variety Channel is the channel on YouTube. The guy, it's him and his wife, and they do 4 or 5 hours a day.
Oh,
They're
wow.
coming on the podcast next week, and they basically grow everybody's channels for them. They're
That's
amazing.
fantastic.
So we get a lot of people coming our way from them, and we obviously try and send people back as well. So check them out. But
For sure.
yeah, I agree totally with you on that. And it's like, I think, if it ever comes to that moment where someone's on an investigation and they're filming, and it'll be like a spirit or a ghost or whatever you want to call it will walk up in front of the camera and say hello. It's like then there's still, to me, there's still infinite questions. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Who are you? Why are you still here? You know what I mean?
Yes.
What's it like? The big question, what's it
Yes.
like on the other side? Do you know what I mean? And
Yes.
then, do you realize that, because some people don't realize that you're dead? Because
Yes.
I've heard of cases before where someone's been walking down the road and a car's came along behind them, swerved, run them over accidentally, killed them instantly, but they'll get up and walk on.
Yeah. Because they don't even know. Yeah.
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 So to me, it's one of them things where that, like you said, I hope nobody ever finds all the answers. But it's like, to me, no matter what answers people find, there's still infinite questions about every answer. It's one of them subjects that, to me, it will never get boring to me. Never ever.
Absolutely not, and then there's so many different classifications of hauntings too. And I want, and that's kind of, I was thinking as you were talking about the YouTube thing, is that's what I see sometimes. There's some investigators out there, and I'm not saying, and please don't people out there think I'm saying that all YouTube stuff is bad. I mean, heck, we've got some YouTube content. We don't pump a lot out to that. We do most of our stuff on Facebook, and we are the world's worst about documenting things really great and capturing great evidence. We're horrible about sharing it. It's just we have it. We have boatloads of it. We just don't do a good job of putting. Which I'm going to work on that. That's one of my things that I want to change. But there are some great YouTube channels where I see people doing great investigations, and then I see some that are doing great investigations, but they have the experience. And I hope that they're just editing it to just cut that point off because they're moving to make the flow of the video go. I hope they continued on in those investigations, is what I'm saying. I hope they
Yeah.
asked those good questions, because did they take it that step further, or did they stop and just stop where we saw them? And I hope not. And because it's like, you're right. Every time you pull, it's like a ball of yarn. You pull one little piece and it unravels some more. And I think that that's what's so amazing about the whole paranormal phenomena, is all the different aspects that you have to really consider. It's sort of like residential work, and I'm going to talk about that again. When you go in and do residential work, I can't apply my belief system as far as spiritually. If it's a spiritually related issue, my belief system may not work for those people. If what's happening there, if they can't believe in the solution that you're giving, if you're really trying to help people, if they can't believe in the solution is never going to work. The solution has to be something that they believe in just as much as what you're trying to do for them. So it's important. And I saw one of the questions pop up, and if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and answer it.
Yeah.
It says, if you may, how do you feel about doing residential cases as a live stream?
Yeah.
This is this
Matt
is
Barron.
Okay, this is just my personal opinion on that. I have actually been in a situation where I have had clients ask, say, hey, you can feel free to put it on Facebook. I personally don't. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying it's wrong for the way my team works, because to us, that's a very private thing that these people are experiencing. If they want you to share it, for me personally, sure, that's fine. I still don't. I still keep residential work, me personally, and the team, we keep residential work completely confidential. We sign confidentiality agreements, not for us, but for their peace of mind, saying that
Yeah.
we are going to keep that confidential. They're not asking for that. We're giving them that up front, because we do a lot of the paperwork on that stuff too before. And with residential work for us, it doesn't start with going in and investigating. That's usually the final step. There is back and forth discussions. There's interviews with the homeowner. There's interviews with the people that live in the house. There's people that have had the experiences. We go down the path of addiction and mental health issues and all the other explanations first. There's like a 60-page questionnaire before we even come into your house, that we go through that process. And then usually the first contact is, myself or one of the lead investigators will go with the psychic medium. We'll read the house after we've conducted all those interviews. We'll see if we can find the explanational things like the squeaky hinge and the bad motors. And then if need be, we'll go to that next level of actually investigating it. But it's a different investigation than we do if we go to a Randolph County asylum. It's a totally different mindset, and its approach totally different. So I just wanted to touch on that question, and I hope I answered that for Matt.
Yeah, no problem. So it's like getting back to the YouTube thing.
Yeah.
You know, I think that, yeah, it's nice to have a channel. You know, from my personal point of view, it's nice to have my channel. It's nice to have all my videos that I've done to put on it. It's nice to have subscribers. You know what I mean? It's nice to have people commenting all the time. And if you get to a certain amount, then obviously you get monetized by YouTube, which is a bonus.
Absolutely.
But to me, I think, and a lot of people are the same, is like, if I could pick between 10,000 subscribers on YouTube and being monetized, or my videos on there and a low amount, but all the real activity for people to see, you know, I think that's what has to come into play there. Where, yeah, and 99% of the paranormal investigators here on YouTube will go on there and put all their investigations on, and you know, will show all the evidence and stuff that they've caught. But you know, you get some on there, and a lot of them are like younger people and stuff who, you know, come out of school and think, I'm going to be a YouTuber. I am, you know, and they'll put on, you know, running through the woods and someone chasing them with a Jason Voorhees mask and stuff. You know what I mean? And it's like, really, that's just your mate. That's just your friend that's dressed up, you know, and that kind of thing that annoys me. But obviously, if they're doing it for what they call, this is a good one to use now, entertainment purposes.
Yes. Yep.
I
totally agree.
Yeah,
with everything
I don't really like watching them.
No,
because to me they're taking the piss really sometimes of the actual of the paranormal field, and you know, it's whereas, as we talked about years ago, where it was, you might say, frowned upon, whereas as now, and you said it best. I get it sometimes. I'm walking down the street with a hoodie or a t-shirt on, a half from paranormal, and people stop you and they're like, you know, oh, are you a ghost hunter? And then, like you say, it's a conversation starter. It's not one of these ones where people will walk past you and point and laugh at you. You know, another one of them nutters.
You know, you're going to hell, you know, and walk past you.
Yeah, and it's like people these days are more susceptible to actually believing in it.
Yep. Yeah, and I think you touched on something that's really important about the YouTube thing. I anybody that has success with anything they do, I totally support. You know, if somebody has a YouTube channel that is putting out authentic, that's the key. It's intentions, right? If your intention is to really be pure in anything that you do, no matter what it is, if it's paranormal investigating, as long as you know that you're being methodical and pure in what you do, you're presenting the truth and letting people decide. There's always going to be people that don't believe. There's, you know, you're never going to convince the hardcore skeptic of the existence of the paranormal, no more than you're ever going to, you know, make an atheist believe that God exists. So there's always going to be both sides of that. But what I'm saying is, what you hit on is exactly right. The people that are doing it to share the paranormal experiences and to put that content out so that other people who don't get to experience that get to experience it, and to validate and show the evidence, I think that's wonderful. It is the ones that put on the Jason Voorhees mask and claim that their buddy that, you know, threw the rock at them that you can still clearly see in the frame on YouTube. Those are the ones that drive me crazy. If you want to do that and you want to make little satire video, do it, but put a disclaimer in there that this isn't real. You know, we're just having fun, and I would be fine with that. stay in your lane kind of thing. If that's your thing, please don't muddy up the waters. And I think of psychic mediums in the same context with this. You talked about that earlier. Years ago, when people were sensitives, or you talk about people that are actually mediums, there was a bad stigma attached to this. Some of them, like many years ago, because it was automatically assumed that they were frauds because of bad ones that did that really made a mockery of what they do. And I kind of feel these people that are doing, and I'm applying that to the YouTube thing, the people that are faking evidence and doing these really horrible things on the YouTube channels are hurting the ones that are actually benefiting the community. Because I think the more that we have, shows and YouTube and films and whatever of real people that do this stuff, it just helps make that conversation starter even more of a conversation starter. So it's a double-edged sword, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
It's like it's one of them. It's one of them ones I look at it like, if there was a like, say there was an old farmhouse down the road from you, and you went and did an investigation in it and caught a load of evidence, and hopefully in the next year or two, I'll be coming back over to the States because I'm meeting up with AJ and doing some investigations. Well, say we come down and we did that farmhouse because you said to me, "Oh, come down here and we'll take you to it."
Sure.
So we come down, meet up with you, we do the investigation, get some more evidence. But the problem with me arises where some of these people who do this stuff for entertainment purposes get a hold of the location, and they go there and do one of these freaky ones where they open a wardrobe and Michael Myers is standing there.
Yeah.
And it's like, then all of a sudden, anybody who's watching that thinks, right, well then, does that mean that everybody else that did that place was the same? Do you know what I mean? That's what annoys me. Hi, Christy.
Absolutely. And it does.
So, it's one of them things. And I think what YouTube should do, if they haven't already, and I might be oblivious to this, but I think they should have it where, what do you call it? I'm looking for the word and it's sitting on the edge of my tongue. Like categories, you know what I mean? So like, paranormal, urban exploring, cooking,
right,
motors, things like they should have it, and then have one entertainment videos.
Yes.
And then when you upload your video to YouTube, instead of it saying, "What's your video name?" you type in the name and then it goes, right, uploading. I think it should come up, what category do you want your video to go into?
Yes.
And then, like I say, these kids now that are coming out of school, if they want to be this big YouTuber and want to go and do videos, and like I say, they'll do one where they're playing American football, but then they'll do another one where maybe they're magnet fishing, and then they'll do like a paranormal one. But it's like, if you want to do that, by all means, knock yourself out, do it to your nosebleeds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But put it in the category that's not going to affect.
Absolutely.
Because if you go on YouTube and you type in paranormal, you get both. You get the whole mixture.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I think that YouTube should introduce, I don't know what your take on that is, but if they introduce like categories.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And it's like I've clicked on like I said, I've seen some really great YouTube videos where there's some really great content. I've also seen ones that, if in the 20 minutes that you were live, and on the YouTube live side, I've seen this, like literally watch this. If that much stuff happened in the 20 minutes that you were live, I mean, I'm talking like the absolute most intense experiences in my entire paranormal career would be like 1% of what this 20-minute live at this house was, that I'm particularly talking about. I mean, there's no, that would be the most haunted place in the world, and I would die to go there. Literally, like I would sell everything I own just to go to it, because I cannot fathom that much activity happening in a span of 20 minutes. It was like nonstop, doors slamming, things being thrown, something running through the hall. I mean, I've never seen anything on that level. So when you look at the other content of the videos on that channel, guess what? They're all that. So that means everywhere that this person is either the greatest ghost magnet ever, or there's definitely something wrong here. So you're right, and they're great. They're well done. They're good production value, but they're definitely not authentic. They're not genuine. I don't feel they are. So I wish there was a category for that, because there are people out there that want to just be entertained. They want the jump scares. They want to watch a horror movie. They want to watch, whatever movie on TV, or whatever. That's a little different thing than what I think we in the paranormal community are really striving to do.
Yeah. I mean, my 10-year-old son watches YouTube, and he watches some videos, and there's a couple of groups. I'm not going to mention their names. A couple of groups from the States, and they're literally out for entertainment purposes. And I'll tell you, I'm not going to lie, their videos for production side,
Oh
for
yeah,
sound, they're fantastic.
they're entertaining.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they've got drones in the air that's filming. They've got multi cameras. And it's like, the whole thing. It's like I look at it, and they're young people. They're in their late teens,
yeah,
early 20s. And I look at it, and I think to myself, you know what? If you actually put your not, I don't mean this in a nasty way towards them. Put your mind to do the right thing. Maybe in their heads that's the right thing and that's what they want to do, and that's absolutely fine.
yeah,
But if they were into the paranormal for say, and it's like, you think about what kind of videos you could be knocking out, really, you
yeah,
know. But it's like you watch it, and it's, they're going on and saying, oh, this is 100% real. I'm being chased by Bigfoot and stuff, and it's like, for a start, really, no, it's not. That's someone dressed up,
yeah,
But the way you've
yeah,
done the video, you show yourselves driving up this road through the woods, and you've got a camera view on the dashboard of the car moving. You've also got a drone in the air, what your friend has, that when you're driving along, he's moving the
yeah,
drone along. So you've got a drone view of the car, and it's all well put together and stuff. And it's like, you look at some of it, I do anyway, and I think, I wish I could do that.
yeah,
But, but to me, finding answers in what we do and gathering evidence and gathering data in what we do is more important to me than
absolutely.
putting a fantastic production out there.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. That's why I said earlier, we're the world's worst. I mean, we're the world's best at documenting our stuff. And I've got plenty of evidence. I'm just horrible about putting the content out to go with it. I mean, look at my YouTube channel, our YouTube channel, SRS's YouTube channel. There's very little on there because we just don't do that. We should put more of it out there. We don't. That's not our focus, and it hasn't been. The film is the biggest production thing we've ever done in terms of really trying to put something together content wise, but it was for, a really unique purpose that we wanted to do that. But in our everyday work, most of our work is centered around doing research and trying new experiments, trying to cross validate using the psychic mediums and the equipment side by side, using Victorian era methods, using equipment with seances to validate what's happening in those moments. And we work on a lot of stuff at our home haunt, the Nickerson's Need. We're blessed. We are actually based out of a fantastically haunted location, so we can go there anytime we want and set up experiments and do things and document those things and keep those data points. So yeah, it's a balance for me anyway, to do kind of a little bit of both. But I totally get what you're saying. I wish that we could find a way to really share data and communicate and put the egos aside. I think the worst thing I see in the paranormal field is the I'm right, you're wrong attitudes of some people. And a lot of people talk para-unity, but I see fewer living it than actually talking about it. And I think we're never going to go forward in this field collectively if we don't stop that.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, just before we get towards the end, I'll tell you a big pet hate of mine, and this happens a lot, is like someone will do a a location, an investigation in a location, like an abandoned pub, and the investigation is fantastic. They've got some responses on the spirit box, whatever. They put it on, and then someone comments on it and says, "Oh well, I was there 3 weeks ago," and then someone else will comment and say, "Oh well, I was there before you," and it's like, does it really matter? Does it really matter who was there first? Does it really matter?
Nope.
Does it really matter how many times you've been there?
Nope.
you've been there 4 times. You ain't caught jack compared to what this person's caught. You know
Yep.
what I mean? And it's like it's a real pet hate of mine. You
And
know,
maybe, yeah. No, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm just saying, get ones. Oh well, I was the first one to find that place. Yeah, and what do you want a medal?
Yeah. Yeah. So who cares?
Yeah,
I mean, yeah,
yeah,
really, who cares? Yeah.
yeah. You were the
No.
first person to find it, but where's your responses in the ghost box? There's none there. You
Yeah.
know.
Well, and I think that's also an interesting point too. And this is something that I know I've experienced in my own journey, and the team has too. You can go to a place one time and nothing happened. You can go to a place another time and a lot happens, or it can be a little bit of both. And I think that that's because it's not a thrill ride, it's not a roller coaster. We don't dictate when spirit decides to interact with us; they do. So I think also part of that is imagine walking into and we I don't know. Do you have Walmart over there? We have something called Walmart here. Do you have that?
Yeah, well, I know Walmart, but we have one called Asda, and they're actually owned by Walmart. So
So it's essentially the same thing. So a big box
yeah,
store, right? So imagine walking into this is how I equate it. You walk into a big box store. If you treated people the way some of these investigators treat spirits, people would never interact with you. If we are communicating with human spirits, if we don't treat them as humans and stop treating them like circus animals, there might be a reason that you don't get experiences also. And it's when you ask the same questions that these imagine being a ghost and getting asked all the same questions all the time, and people kind of treating you like they want you to perform like a circus animal. Hey, come light my little box up, come roll my ball across the floor. And I'm not saying that I'm really paraphrasing it all down, but my point is, I think sometimes people get so caught up in the experience, they forget the human element of that. And I'm using the Walmart analogy. Imagine if you walked into the Walmart or the big box store and you interacted with people the way we automatically try to interact with spirits sometimes. The reason some teams get more than others, it's the style, it's the approach. It's
yeah,
that's how you have to approach it, is thinking of them not as ghosts but as human beings, because that's likely what they once were in many cases. So I think that's an important thing that gets lost. I have found sometimes just turning on a voice recorder and having a conversation with thin air produces better EVPs than running down a list of bullet point questions. So I think it's you got to adapt. It's you got to kind of look at it that way too, as it's not just talking to ghosts, it's talking to people.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember one time being in a house and abandoned house, and I was getting little bits and pieces, but nothing really spectacular. But I could sense there was something in there, and I turned on a necrophonic app, and I was trying to do it where I was like, we want to show people that you're here, and stuff like that. And I was like, can you tell me or tell the people on camera, you know, what this is? And there was a bottle of wine that was left in the house, and I was sitting on a table, and I put my hand on it. It says, "Can you tell people what this is?" And it went, "Wine."
Fantastic. See,
And then
exactly.
my eldest son, who's part of my team, he had a blue T-shirt on, and he zipped his coat up, and he was like, "Would you mind telling people what color of T-shirt I have?" And it went
Yep.
blue. And he
Fantastic.
unzipped his coat and went blue T-shirt. And
Yep.
the responses that were coming down, like you said, we weren't sitting there going, "Oh, can you move this glass?
Yes.
Can you throw something against that wall?" It was like, we want, and I like using this, and we want to document your presence. We want
Exactly.
to show people that you exist.
We
You
want to
know,
tell your story. That's one of my
yeah, we want
favorites.
to tell your story. We want
Yep.
people to know that this was your house or
Yep.
wherever you are. And that you're still here or you still look over it. So if you're here,
Yes.
just verify it by telling me, for instance, what this is and
Yeah.
hold something up. To me, you're asking a question like you say going
Yes.
into a Walmart. Can you please tell me where the meat aisle is, for
Right.
instance? You know what I mean? And then so you're asking a valid question
Exactly.
that someone's going to give you a valid answer for.
It's
And
how you approach it. It's
yeah,
the manner in which you do it that can really
and
sway the
I've also
results.
learned as well, pleases and thank yous go a long way.
Yes. Again, I kind of equate it to how do you interact with the living? You should interact with spirits the same way. I mean, you really essentially should. Now you're asking questions about their past, but you don't want to be, I don't think being rude is the answer. I would never walk up to you on the street and be aggressively rude for no reason. That would be counterproductive. You're probably not going to talk to me. However, the please and thank yous, the being polite, the being courteous, the being respectful of their space, I think goes a long way for them. I mean, I think spirits are, I think humans, people are in death as they were in life. I truly believe that. And I think a great example of that is if you go into a prison and you investigate a really bad prison, you should not be surprised if some of the interactions that you get are heavier or darker. It doesn't mean that there's demons running around the prison. It just means that there was probably some negative people that once spent time there. For
Yeah.
example, I have been blatantly cussed on a spirit box in a prison. This did not come as a shock to me. I was in a prison, like a death row prison. I was not at a nunnery where it was a bunch of nuns that I was talking to. I was literally talking to prisoners. So it did not shock me. But, I think you have to put that context on it too. It's also relevant to where you are,
Absolutely.
what you're going to interact with.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you something, Matthew. I have absolutely loved this conversation.
Me too. It was fun.
Honestly, and like I say, AJ obviously hasn't made it in, so we will have you on again whenever
I would
AJ's.
love to. It was a great time.
Honestly, I tell you, it's a lot different trying to say to these people, thank you, Adriana.
That's my wife.
Miss Sorge. I got it right there. See that?
See, thank you. All right.
No, but honestly, it's a lot different talking to someone like yourself over Messenger or Facebook, and then it's better obviously meeting them.
Yes.
It's not somewhat. Well, I still call it face to face. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we had a real conversation.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think that the people who have been watching have enjoyed it as well. So I just want to say thank you for giving us your time.
Oh, anytime.
And
I enjoyed it.
we will organize another date with you to come back on. We will show some of your evidence that you have. We'll show your trailer and stuff like that as well. But honestly, thank you, Matthew. Thank you for arranging to come on because I know you're a busy man.
Oh, no, man. It was my pleasure anytime. And like I said, I hope when we get our show back up that you and AJ would come on in.
Not a problem.
Listen,
Not a problem.
when you come to the States, if you're anywhere near Tennessee, you have a standing invite to come hang out with the team. So anytime you
Excellent. Thank you. I've been twice, but I've never been Tennessee. I've been at Florida and New York. I've been.
No, we've got about 3 or 4 state historic sites here in Tennessee that we are the only team that is allowed to investigate them because we've earned, and they're state owned, but we've earned that ability. They're haunted and they knew they were, and they had us come in to validate it. So, our reputation got us the ability to do those places. So my point is you have a reason to come to Tennessee, and I've said it here on live TV. So it's out there now. So the world now, you can hold me to it. So no, seriously, I hope that you do. I hope you make it to Tennessee sometime.
Yeah, not a problem at all. Like I say, I'm planning on. I've got so much to do over there, and I'm planning on making a point of trying to get over and doing some of it. So AJ lives in Connecticut.
Fantastic.
So although it's probably quite far away, but it's on the same side. You know what I mean? It's not a million miles, is it really? So hopefully, if we can get over there,
it's a good 8 or 10 hours. It's a day. It's a full day.
Yeah,
for sure.
But it's not like traveling from New York to LA. You know what I mean?
No. And you're already coming from the UK, so I mean you've already come pretty far at that point, right? So what's another 8 hours?
Exactly. It's 8.5 hours in the plane to fly there from here anyway. So
see, there you go. It's just like flying home. Just you're not flying. Well, I know, really enjoyed it, man. Seriously, I had a great time.
Matthew. And like I say again, thank you very much for coming on. Anytime. And I will stay in touch with you. And I think AJ will be. I don't know. Has he already added you?
I'm not sure.
I think he will be because he did mention to me about that. But like I say, both of us we will stay in touch with you. We'll have you on again, and we're more than happy to come on yours. Absolutely.
Look forward to it, man.
Thanks very much anyway. I'll just put you backstage again. Thank you.
All right, sounds good.
Right, everybody. Well, that was an absolutely, well, for me anyway, an absolutely fantastic conversation. I could have spoke to that guy for another hour and 14 minutes. Definitely. But he will be on again. Absolutely. We will show his evidence. We also have, unfortunately, I'm not really computer literate that much, but we do have the trailer for the production that he was talking about. We will be able to show that and a few other things as well. But like I say, I just again want to shout it for Parapost for everyone. Please, please, if you haven't already, go and check Parapost out. Honestly, it's a fantastic up and coming network. It's really going to be so big. So go and check it out. And as I say, our sponsors and our other teams as well. Please check them all out. But like I say, keep watching because we have a lot more great guests coming up. But from me, from Robin Huffern Paranormal and Talking with the Source, we will see you next time. Goodbye.